Prochain! Qu'est-ce ça? Enfin, oui, d'accord, de front!
They say crime never pays, but sometimes it looks like it does. This is not a movie, it's not a fairy tale, and it's not about one man alone, it's about a system that failed. This story is inspired by real events. He grew up on the streets. No stable home, no guidance, no protection. As a boy, he learned early that hunger doesn't care about good morals. While other kids went to school, he learned how to survive. First, it was small things. Phone chargers, loose change, food from roadside stalls. People shouted at him. Sometimes they beat him. Sometimes they chased him away. But nobody asked why he was there. By his late teens, he was no longer stealing for food. He was stealing for power. The streets had taught him one lesson very well. Fear commands respect faster than kindness. He joined the wrong crowd. Older boys who already knew how the streets worked. They protected him, and in return, he proved himself. Stealing became easier. Running became routine. Getting caught became rare. And when he was caught, something strange started happening. He'd disappear for a few hours, then come back free. No charges, no records, no consequences. That was when he realized something dangerous. Rules don't apply equally to everyone. As time passed, he stopped being the one who ran errands. He became the one who gave instructions. He dressed better, moved smarter, spoke less. He didn't brag. He didn't show off. People just noticed results. Money started appearing, fast money. The kind of money that raises questions, but nobody wants to ask them. He left the streets, but the streets never left him. Then came the turning point. He didn't change for the better. He just changed levels. The risks became bigger. The profits became higher. And the damage spread wider. People around him began to suffer quietly. Families broke. Young lives were pulled in. But he was never seen at the center of it all. Only whispers followed him. Every time trouble came close, it vanished. Every time his name was mentioned, it was removed. Not because he was innocent, but because he was connected. Connections everywhere. People who owed him favors. People who benefited from his silence. People who preferred peace over truth. Soon, people stopped talking. Not because they didn't know, but because they were afraid. He attended events, donated publicly, smiled for cameras. To outsiders, he looked like a success story. To those who knew, he was proof that justice doesn't always win. Years passed. He built a comfortable life. Not loud, not flashy. He lived among ordinary people. The same people his actions quietly affected. He walked freely, laughed freely, slept peacefully, or so it seemed. But here's the part nobody sees. A life built on harm is never truly stable. Trust becomes impossible. Peace becomes an act. Every knock sounds like danger. He may have escaped the law, but he didn't escape the weight of what he became. This story isn't told to admire him. It's told to ask a hard question. What happens when bad behavior is rewarded? When power protects wrongdoing? When silence becomes normal? Because the truth is, people like this don't exist because they are smart alone. They exist because systems allow them to. And while some criminals fall early, others walk freely among us. So if you're watching this and thinking, crime pays, look again. What you see is money. What you don't see is the cost. This story is not encouragement. It's a warning. Because shortcuts don't always lead where you think they do. And not everyone who escapes justice escapes consequences. Years passed. The man who had once ruled the streets quietly and invisibly now lived among ordinary people. He had wealth, connections, and a reputation carefully managed. Eventually, he married. Life appeared normal on the surface, a family, a home, and a semblance of stability. And soon, a son was born. For a while, he hoped that his child would be different. Perhaps the son would learn caution. Perhaps he would witness the mistakes of his father and choose a better path. But life, as it often does, had other plans. The boy grew up in luxury. Not the quiet comfort the father had carefully built, but excess, showmanship, a world where money was a tool to impress and dominate. From a young age, he observed his father's influence and interpreted it as freedom. Not freedom to survive, but freedom to manipulate, flaunt, and insult without consequence. By the time he was a teenager, he had become a mirror and then a magnified version of his father. Worse, bolder, and louder. He flaunted wealth online, posting videos of expensive cars, designer clothes, and lavish parties. He mocked those less fortunate. He taunted the poor with arrogance. He insulted strangers with an unfiltered cruelty that shocked even those who knew of his father's quiet menace. Social media amplified his behavior. Every post, every comment, every video reached more eyes than any single crime his father had committed. And while the father watched quietly, he could not stop it. His son had inherited not just his cunning, but also his disregard for consequences and taken it further. The world eventually noticed. Arrogance leaves traces, and visibility brings attention. Investigators started piecing together the son's online activity, connections, past crimes, hidden dealings. Everything the father had carefully shielded began resurfacing under scrutiny. Soon, the FBI was involved. They traced financial transactions, online insults, and decades of criminal activity. All of the small, invisible crimes that the father had evaded were now coming back to the surface. And the son, with his arrogance and digital footprint, became the trigger that exposed them both. The investigation was meticulous. Every detail mattered. Every post, every transaction, every whispered rumor was tracked. The father's untouchable years came to an end. The careful balance of fear, loyalty, and connections could no longer protect him. And his son, who had thought himself untouchable online, realized the same truth. Finally, the arrests were made. Father and son taken into custody. The streets that had nurtured them, the systems that had shielded them, and the connections that had protected them. None could intervene. It was a dramatic collapse of decades of careful evasion. The father, who had survived countless attempts at capture, now faced the consequences of a lifetime of crime. The son, whose arrogance and cruelty had outshone his father, understood that visibility is dangerous when combined with wrongdoing. In custody, the two faced the weight of their actions. Not just legal consequences, but the reality of the lives they had affected. People who had suffered quietly, opportunities lost, families harmed, all finally came into the light. The father, who had thought himself untouchable, realized too late that every act leaves a trace. The son, who had thought the world owed him respect because of wealth and boldness, learned that cruelty brings attention, and attention brings accountability. This continuation is not told to glorify crime. It is told to show the inevitable truth. Arrogance, cruelty, and the misuse of power have consequences. No matter how invisible you think you are, no matter how strong your connections, eventually, reckoning arrives. And sometimes, it comes from a next generation, the one who inherits your mistakes and amplifies them, until the system can no longer ignore them. The story ends not with escape, but with justice finally catching up. A father who thought he had outsmarted the world, and a son who thought he could outshine him, both finally facing the law they once believed they could evade.